share my screen. So let me share right now. Any last questions? Now's your chance. No, okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and, Ellie, have you let people in as soon as the slideshow is full screen, okay?
I'm gonna start recording once you go full screen.
Say that again?
I'm gonna go full screen, or record when you go full screen here and let people in.
Yeah. Ready to go.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, admitting.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this evening's closing ceremony for Making the Right Moves Power Pivot 2020. We're going to get started here in just a few moments. And I want to remind you that this is our closing ceremony, including our special keynote address by Dr. Jill Biden, coming up in just a few moments. Unlike our past webinars over the course of the entire virtual conference, today's Zoom event is actually a Zoom meeting. So one thing you need to know about that is the best way to view this evening's closing ceremony is to adjust your view from gallery view, which you'll see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, to speaker view. So we recommend using speaker view for the duration of tonight's conversation. And as you're joining us, I'd encourage everybody to weigh in chat to tell us what your favorite part of this year's Making the Right Moves conference has been thus far. We'll get started here in just a few more moments. Hello, everyone. If you're just tuning in, you are in the right place for this evening's closing ceremony for Making the Right Moves Power Pivot 2020. We're so excited to have you all joining us this evening, and we want to encourage you to weigh in via chat. Select the chat function under the More button in the bottom or top of your screen, and make sure you select from the drop-down menu Everyone so that everyone can hear from you when you weigh in to tell us where you're tuning in from tonight and what your favorite part of this year's conference has been thus far. We're also conducting this evening's closing ceremony via a Zoom meeting, which is a little bit different in structure from our Zoom webinars of the past. In order to get the best out of this evening, we encourage you to use speaker view, not gallery view. So in the top right-hand corner or bottom of your screen, you should see different view options available to you and select speaker view. We'll get started in just a few more minutes. Hello, everyone. You're in the right place. We're going to get started here in just one more minute. In the meantime, weigh in chat to tell us where you're tuning in from and what your favorite part of this year's Making the Right Moves conference has been thus far. We're going to get started here in just one more moment. Welcome to tonight's closing ceremony.
Good evening, and welcome to the final session of MSJDN's Making the Right Moves. I am Dawn Guile, president of MSJDN, as well as an attorney and proud Army spouse. And while I am just as excited as you are to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Jill Biden, I wanted to take a couple minutes to reflect on this conference. As you all know very well, this year has been unlike any other. And here at MSJDN, we have spent a lot of time and effort over the past several months deliberating on how we could continue to best serve our members, as well as our greater military and legal communities amid these challenges. Switching Making the Right Moves to a virtual format is just one example of how MSJDN pivoted. I've been absolutely delighted with the incredible feedback we've received from this conference and the overwhelming turnout as we've more than doubled our usual quantity of attendees for this conference. I hope you have been as inspired as I have been by the constant reminders throughout these sessions of how even as we wait on the home front in support of our spouse's military service, our careers are important too. Despite the challenges we have been faced with this year, I have been proud of the incredible work we have continued to do at MSJDN, whether it be providing pro bono legal services to Gold Star families, or our advocacy for licensing accommodations, yay for Rhode Island as our 40th state to adopt a military spouse admission rule, or our development of our diversity and inclusion committee, or this very Making the Right Moves professional development conference. Organizations like MSJDN are more important now than ever. I'd also like to take the opportunity to again thank our many sponsors who help make the work of MSJDN possible. Thank you. I'm also extraordinarily grateful for Emily and the incredible team at Bossed Up who made this group of lawyers look like true tech-savvy professionals. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Michelle, our fabulous events director, to introduce our special speaker this evening. Michelle.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Richard, and I am the Military Spouse JD Network's Community and Events Director. I am so glad that all of you have joined us for this year's Making the Right Moves, our annual professional development conference. As Dawn mentioned, our theme being Pivot or Power Pivot 2020, we really took that to heart and pivoted our entire conference to be virtual this year. It has been a bigger and better conference than we could have ever imagined, and I want to thank each and every one of you for really showing up in a major way. After our conference tonight, please look for a follow-up email with a survey. We would love to hear any and all feedback from you as to how to make our event even bigger and even better in the future. With that, I am incredibly excited and incredibly honored to introduce our closing event speaker tonight, somebody who probably needs no introduction. Dr. Jill Biden is the former Second Lady of the United States and co-founder of Joining Forces, an initiative focusing on military families and, in part, on military spouse employment opportunities and career development. No stranger to the military lifestyle, Dr. Biden is a military mom herself. Further, no one knows better than Dr. Biden how to navigate one's own demanding career while simultaneously supporting a career of a spouse. As Second Lady, Dr. Biden, a lifelong educator and college professor, carried a full course load taught a full course load. In fact, she was the very first second lady to hold a paying job while her spouse served as Vice President of the United States. Please help me in giving our keynote speaker, Dr. Jill Biden, a very warm Military Spouse JD Network welcome.
Hi, thank you, Michelle. You know, you've served our nation in so many ways. As a civilian JAG attorney, as a member of the Air Force Reserves, JAG Corps, and as an Air Force spouse. And you've been a tireless advocate for this community, and we're so grateful for your work. Dawn, thank you for your service as well, and especially for your leadership as president of MSJDN. As Michelle said, the Bidens are a military family. Our son, Bo, was in the Army National Guard, and my father was a signalman during World War II. And when my dad's mother had to sign a waiver for him to join, and I realized how difficult that must have been for her when Bo served a year in Iraq. And like so many veterans and military families, like all of you, my dad's service shaped our lives. He was from a working class family, the grandson of Gaetano and Conchetta Giacappa, Italian immigrants who came here looking for a better life. And thanks to the GI Bill, my dad was able to go to business school in Philadelphia. He eventually became a bank president while my mom stayed at home to raise 5 daughters. And that was my family's American dream, a life where military service meant educational opportunities, where with hard work, the grandson of immigrants could join the middle class, could have a career that made him proud. But my family wasn't unique. Just a few hours away in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Joe saw the power of that dream in his own family. A boy from a family of Irish immigrants who would one day become vice president. Everyone deserves the same opportunities our families had, especially those who sacrificed so much for our country. And that's why when Michelle Obama asked me what I wanted to focus on in 2008, the answer was easy: supporting military families and veterans. It just so happened that was her goal as well. And in that moment, we bonded. That's when I realized, what an opportunity that I had been given. You see, it might sound strange, but since Joe commuted from Washington, D.C. home to Delaware every day, politics was just one part of our lives. He had a job to do, and so did I. Actually, I had a few. I was a full-time teacher. I was raising 3 kids and pursuing my education as well. So when Barack and Joe won, I was deeply honored to become second lady, but I also knew I wouldn't be able to walk away from my career and my passions. I couldn't just live Joe's life. And I'm sure you all know, how that feels better than most. So I found a new job teaching at Northern Virginia Community College, and I launched Joining Forces with First Lady Michelle, a nationwide initiative calling all Americans to rally around service members, veterans, and their families, and support them through wellness, education, and employment opportunities. And over the years, at bases and communities across this country, I've seen the incredible strength of military spouses. I've sat at Walter Reed with a mom caring for her newborn and her wounded husband, seamlessly switching between changing diapers and cheering on his physical therapy. I've admired the spouses who, even while moving every 2 years and struggling to keep their own careers afloat, never missed a chance to volunteer. And I've watched so many moms and dads, like my daughter-in-law, Hallie, figure out how to parent for two, how to make birthdays and holidays special, even though there's an empty chair at the table. Some people think of service as something that, only happens on a battlefield, but it's so much more than that too. You serve every day in big ways like deployments and PCSs, and small ones as well, lifting up each other's spirits, volunteering in your communities, the small acts of kindness that give us the strength to keep going. And that's been especially true during this pandemic. You're supporting each other, finding mercy and grace in the moments that we probably once had taken for granted, reminding us that the heart of this nation still beats with kindness and courage. We made progress with joining forces, but we have so much more to do. From reducing unemployment to changing licensing and credentialing to helping our schools support military-connected children. Joe believes that America has many obligations, but we only have one truly sacred obligation: to properly prepare and equip our troops when we send them into harm's way, and to care for them and their families, both while they are returning and after they return home. Supporting you isn't just a good thing to do, it's a national security imperative. And no matter what comes next for us, we will never stop working to lift up your community and make sure you have what you need to thrive. So I want to end by saying thank you. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. Thank you for all you do for this community. And thank you for your faith in an idea that's bigger than any one of us. And that is that we will build a better nation because we are going to do this together. God bless our troops and their families. Thank you.
Dr. Biden, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We all really appreciate your words, and they hit really close to home for us. I know everyone is feeling the same thing this evening. We just can't thank you enough for the work that you've done on behalf of military families, and especially when it comes to military spouse employment, an issue near and dear to MSJDN and each and every one of us. MSJDN has accomplished so much in the past 10 years, but we wouldn't be here without the partners and the allies that have supported us at each step along the way. Thank you so much for your continued support. My name is Kristen Jones. I'm the president-elect of MSJDN this year. And again, thank you to each and every one of our attendees for joining us tonight. One of the amazing things about Making the Right Moves is it's a chance to bring the community together. And we're really, really grateful that this year with a virtual format, we've got so many more people under the roof together. So the way that we're going to close out the conference this year is with a community conversation. We're going to go ahead in a few moments and break out into smaller discussions groups, only about 5 people each. And I promise Boss Up has made this extremely simple and seamless for us. So stick with us. Our goal here is to introduce you to a handful of people that maybe you haven't met before, friends that you didn't even know that you had, and just to discuss the life pivots that we've all been experiencing recently. So think about one thing that's been challenging you lately. There may be more than one thing, but think about one thing, something you're striving towards. Or on the flip side, something you've recently accomplished, something you've mastered, and something that you're feeling really proud of that you can share with the group. We're going to talk in small groups for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to come on back to the larger conference room to continue the conversation. So in just a sec, you're going to see a pop-up on your screen. Emily is going to invite you into a smaller Zoom room. Should be super simple. Click join now, and that's going to lead you to your smaller breakout group where you can have that conversation about what you've been experiencing and how you've been coping with it yourself. If you have any technical difficulties, stick with us. Emily is going to stay here in the main room to direct traffic as needed. So I'll see you back in just a little while. Thank you all. you. I'm guessing a lot of you guys did that as well in the breakout. So I can see so many faces, which is really, really nice. Yeah, so we should all be coming back now because I think Emily made it automatic. We weren't allowed to straggle in our groups, no matter how good the conversation was. So I really just want to kind of continue what your groups were talking about. So if anyone is interested in taking themselves off mute, starting the conversation, share something new or share something that came up in your group conversation, or point the finger at a group member and tell us that you want them to share their story because you found it particularly interesting or inspiring. Anyone want to unmute and just hop in?
I'll be brave. I'll go first.
Thank you. Go for it.
Our group was wonderful. I got to meet new friends and say hello to someone I had met a long time ago. And also, we just talked about the different practices and family life and dealing with COVID. And it was just so nice to talk to other people that really are in the same boat.
Yeah. Oh, us too. What did some of the other groups talk about? What did you guys find that you had in common that you were all dealing with at the moment?
This is Rachel Smith. I love how we're all, it's interesting as military spouses that, like, for once, probably the only time that we're coming across right now, our service member spouses are also like not always away. Like how we're always used to them being away, like TDY or, some sort of battle assembly, whatever it is. It's like for the first time in our military family relationship, our service member spouses are actually home on a regular basis, and like they're in our space, and we're just like, this never happens. Like, this is really interesting.
Yeah,
So
it's just the preview what's to come.
Yeah. I started geobatching. It was just too much. So I saw someone mention in the chat transitioning to remote practice. Feel free to participate in the chat too. But Catherine, what were you saying? Oh, maybe I was mistaken. Kelly?
Catherine Chesney. I think there's a couple. Am I the only Catherine on here?
Catherine, well, you're off mute. I saw that you were off mute, so I thought maybe you wanted to hop in. Or I'm going to call on you anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. I thought it was really interesting to catch up with everyone. I'm really new to Miss JDN. I just joined this year and transitioned from active duty to now a veteran within the last month. And so I'm really excited for this opportunity to connect with fellow military JD spouses. And so I'm just learning a lot from all of you ladies and gentlemen about what your experience looks like, and really hoping to learn from your wisdom as I take this next step from going from active duty to military spouse.
That's awesome. Welcome. What's next?
TBD. I'm still working on that part. So I'm currently seeking other opportunities, and I'm really fortunate to be getting interviews and that sort of thing, but I'm still on the lookout for what the right fit will be. And so I'm excited for this opportunity to kind of reinvent and figure out what the next chapter looks like. I think that's something that I've been trying to look at with the military spouse journey. Is there's a lot of it that's outside of your control in terms of, when are you going to get PCS orders, and are we going to geobatch, and what are the licensing restrictions and that sort of thing. But I'm trying to look at this from a positive point of view in terms of I have this unique opportunity to reinvent myself and do whatever it is that I'd like to do next. And not everybody gets that opportunity.
That's awesome. Well, call on us anytime that we can help. We're all here, and we've all been through our own struggles. Anyone else? Any other topics that came up in the breakouts?
How about scarf wearing?
Oh, Jamie, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying I learned that maybe I should start wearing scarves when you're on Zoom. So someone told me that they wear scarves when they go to meetings. I was like, I'm going to do
Dr.
that.
Burks.
So we're
That's
here
all.
for big topics and small topics. I love it in the Facebook group when someone says, like, what do I wear to such and such? And I'm like, well, yeah, because we're all wondering that. We don't only have to talk about legal issues and referrals and all the problems in life. So honestly, I feel like my group talked about some problems, but we also moved into kind of some accomplishments. What are some of the accomplishments that came up? Because it's been a weird year, but it's also been sort of a unique opportunity to get things done in a different way.
One of the accomplishments I said was aggressively paying off my student loans, especially not done yet, but 0% interest really helps.
Yeah.
Really, really helps. So for the last like 7 months or so, yeah, business has been good, and I've just been, so that's actually made me feel a lot better, because I know a lot of people aren't doing well right now, and knock on wood, thankfully everything's okay.
That's awesome. Congrats. That's a big deal.
Almost there. Under 60, I think. So.
Ooh.
I would say one of the benefits that I've noticed from COVID and everyone having to go remote is my company has finally had to create a remote work policy. And I've already brought it up with my direct supervisor and my boss and been like, so this is going really well. I'm just going to stay this way. And it's actually worked out really well, because business grew exponentially while we've all been remote, just kind of coincidence. And oh, hi, Pop. And so they have hired too many people to actually fit into the building and started to look for people to go remote. And I was like,
like, yeah, hi. I would be the first on that list.
Yeah, definitely going remote, staying remote. And I was like, oh, and also, I don't know if I mentioned this when you hired me, we're going to PCS one day. So if I'm already remote, and they're like, yeah, you're doing great, just stay that way.
That's awesome. I think that's one of those like benefits that Emily was talking about. Like, even if you're not negotiating your pay grade or your title, you're like, oh, by the way, my work warrants this. Has anyone else had anything similar? That's awesome.
This is Josie. Hi. I definitely have really enjoyed how being remote has broken down the divide between work and life. We talk a lot about work-life balance at MSJDN and a lot of other legal organizations. And we now no longer have to pretend like our life isn't a part of our work or our work a part of our life. I'm lucky enough that I manage 5 people now, and I tell them every day, I want to see the puppies, I want to see the children, I want them all in the Zoom frame, because we don't have to pretend like you don't have a life.
Right.
We're getting interruptions. That's what we're living in right now. And so you should never hesitate to take care of your life, even though we are all also working. So I'm loving that.
Yeah, no kidding.
I have a quick question for the group. Has anyone broached with their employers staying remote in the event that people do return to the office space?
That's a great question.
I'm thinking about doing that. Well, definitely thinking about doing that. And I was just wondering if anyone had any tips on how to talk to your employer about the subject.
Interestingly enough, that came up during our small group session, because I am a program coordinator for a federal grant. So the grant is through the Department of Justice, Office of Violence Against Women. So the grantee is the county, the county's Department of Human Services Area Agency on Aging. So that's who I'm contracted through, is through a local county organization. It's a 3-year grant. We're almost at the end of the first year of the grant, and I was planning on pitching remote work, permanent remote work for the remainder of the grant, which would go until 2022, which would, cross your fingers for me, give me job security for the next 2 years, which would help my resume, but also allow me to hopefully, remain with my husband in terms of not having to geo-badge still. So Sarah On actually brought up a very good point, which is the fact that pretty much all of us are working remote right now, and we are still working remote, is a supporting factor. And another thing that I have, because I'm a nerd, I read news articles like every day, legitimate news articles, by the way. I feel like I need to make that caveat because we're all attorneys. But as you guys all know from the news, we have major corporations like, like Facebook, I think Twitter, Google, they're all doing remote work, like permanent remote work policies as well, which I think boosts our credibility in that sense. So one of the things that I literally made a list, just goes to show you how much of a geek I am. I've literally listed out, like written it out, like what are the reasons that remote work would work? Is because we are doing it right now. And if you're still being successful at it, what is the point in having to go back to the office? Because I'm not just doing my job, I'm doing my job well, right? So changing the physical location doesn't really change the work. And some of my professional mentors that I've been in touch with, one of whom is also an MSJDN member through the MSJDN Mentor Mentee program, she has also supported that idea that since we're all still remote working right now, it just lends more to our argument to continue remote work because we're still able to do our job.
I think another thing you can throw in there, especially if you're a contract employee, is that a lot of the major defense contracting companies, we're all beholden to government contracts. We're all audited by government agencies to make sure that we are accurately reporting our work on our contracts. These major corporations are all remote right now, and a lot of them have plans to remain remote. So when it comes to a question from your employer about your ability to fulfill your contract to the contract requirements, I think these major corporations making these changes and the government being okay with it can also be a really strong point. And then besides that, also giving your employer not a concession, but like an out. So always say to the employer, like, and we can revisit it every month and make sure it's working for everyone, and kind of give like assuage their fears that if they give you the initial okay to stay remote, that it's going to be permanent. So go ahead and say upfront, we'll go ahead and check in, we'll evaluate, we can have entire team meetings and make sure everyone is okay with certain team members staying remote. And it's a little bit risky, and you kind of have to have like in the negotiation, the go, no go. Like if you meet in 2 months and like, it's not working, you can be like, well, either you have to go back into the office or find another job, I guess. But just offering the concession on the front end can go a long way towards working with an employer.
So I saw a great comment from Lindsay that SRD Legal Group has always been remote. And that came up a few days ago. Tim Parlatore mentioned that his firm has always been cloud-based, and they were ready to go. Obviously, a pandemic did not change their day-to-day. Their clients didn't feel that impact, and he saw a huge benefit. Has anyone had that experience where you sort of had a leg up on this whole situation because of your remote work situation?
Yeah, I actually working remote the whole time I've been with my firm. So summer 2018, so 2 years. So I joke the only difference now is that all my colleagues are remote too.
And everyone wants to be on Zoom with you. We talked about that in our small group. Like before, people would just call you, but now everyone wants to have. Zoom.
Oh, we just call. I mean, we still mostly, hey, buddy. Yeah, but it was like, for me, it was a super easy transition, but like then it was like, okay, we have to pass around our cell phone numbers and make sure like our office numbers forwarded to our cell phone, but like that's how I was working beforehand, so it wasn't really a big deal.
Lindsay, yes, everybody in my firm, I mean, my whole department was remote, but now that everyone was, I was telling my small group friends that all the litigators were so bored there for a couple of months that they just always wanted to have video meetings. And I hate it. I don't want to be on the video meeting.
Yeah, I kind of like, I like it and I don't. I think because we're in a sort of a random place. We're in Louisiana and there's not really a big military presence here. So I don't get out much. I don't do much. So it's been kind of fun to be able to go to more stuff virtually. But then it's also like, well, now I have to really get dressed and like put on a shirt.
I know.
I didn't pitch total remote work to my boss, but I told him that I was more productive at home and I was able to work longer hours than I was at the office. And so he's going to start looking into pricing out a computer for me to have at home so I can have the dual monitors and the full PCU at the house. So it's not a full remote, but I'm sort of moving in that direction because cutting out the commute and then being able to start dinner and then go back and still review files and do work has been so helpful. And going back to the office is it's hard to put in more than 9 to 6 or 8 to 6 without needing to come home and take care of stuff at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, our Army litigation team has always been remote since we started, but now that the whole DoD went remote, now we have all the resources that we have needed for a long time to be remote. So that's been really nice that now when I walk through an office that I have close to me that I can go to if I want to, there are bulletin boards filled with tips for how to work remotely because so many of at least the civilians are still not coming in. And so it's been really nice to see so many resources dedicated to Microsoft Teams or other things that we can use to ensure that we're all staying connected. So it's been really great for our team.
Well, I actually work for a place that's pretty against remote work and we're back in the office, but I have to say, I'm so distracted in the office and I can't just let my mind rest and focus on the work when, let's be honest, sometimes my mind is at home and sometimes my mind is at soccer practice. And so I truly think that I can relax more and do more at home. So it's really nice to see a few more employers are figuring that out. We're coming close to the hour, but I don't want to cut anybody off. Are there any other topics that we really haven't brought into the larger discussion?
I was going to say that our company, just following up, we were always remote, my part of the company, but we've seen a huge shift of even clients just being more receptive to remote work. Whereas I think before pre-pandemic, some were definitely nope, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And now we're really seeing people jump on that. So I think that there's going to be a really good shift for people coming up to push for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith.
I want to say, I think that women in general are going to make teleworking be more accessible because people who have small kids at home, but are still getting all their work done, they're working incredibly insane hours. I have a coworker who has twin toddlers and a new baby, and she works very early in the morning till about 11 a.m. and then she's back on at 5 p.m. and she works late. And I don't think anyone should have to ever work like that. But I think the fact that we are able to get it done and do it so well, I think is going to really change how telework works for everybody.
Yes, and we are going to be the leaders. We are absolutely going to be the leaders. Attorneys, military spouses, the companies that had figured it out before the pandemic. I really feel like we're having a moment, and we get to seize it and really take the lead. So I want to thank you guys all so much again for joining us, for making the right moves. I've really, really, really enjoyed the series. I've enjoyed seeing all of you. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again. I saw a suggestion about cocktail hours in the chat. So we definitely want to figure out how we can have more virtual events to bring more MSJDNers together. Awesome mug, Bev. So please, later today, you're going to get an email. It's going to have the recording of tonight's session and it's going to have a survey, but be sure to fill that out and let us know what worked well. Let us know what you want to see next time. Some of you know, some of you don't know, MSJDN is celebrating its 10th anniversary in the spring. The board is getting really excited about planning that. So look for information, but weigh in as well. Tell us how you would like to see it, how you'd like to participate. We'll absolutely have a virtual component, but of course, everything's still up in the air. So we're figuring that out. So fill out that survey. If you have any thoughts, questions, suggestions, you can always get in touch with me or the rest of the board by emailing info@msjdn.org. I'm really looking forward to an event or a series of events seeing you guys, having you participate, having you host those cocktail hours on Zoom. So let me know what you want to see and how you want to see it done. So again, thank you. Have a wonderful night. If you're not a member of MSJDN, get in touch with us because I would love to talk to you about the benefits. You are going to have access to our amazing jobs postings from our hosts, Amazon, from our sponsors like TCDI, from government agencies, law firms, consulting firms. You're going to have access to all of that information, and you're going to have the support of sort of the most amazing network that I've ever come across. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for sharing your struggles with people that understand and really need to hear that it's not just us. So have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I will see you all soon and take care. Thank you.